Today is September 6, 2024. My name is Charles Soothe. Today I'm presenting a new topic, a series of presentations called Overcoming Addiction. This first presentation is to focus on rationalizations that keep people hooked to their addiction. My main message: people who don't want to do something can find many reasons for not doing it. Now, there are two types of addictions or habitual habits: healthy and unhealthy. Now, most human habits are healthy and developed to ensure the daily need of life is satisfied with routines that get the job done. However, some habits are decidedly unhealthy and must be changed if a person wants to live long and prosper. All unhealthy habits start off as harmless indulgences, but when taken to excess, which is the very definition of an addiction, both short and long-term consequences become toxic and harmful to both the person and others. And if you want to, we can add on harmful to society. What were previously indiscreet indulgences has now become a full-blown addiction, and the person has now become a victim of his early pleasures, both physically, chemically, and mentally, emotionally, dependent on a continued supply, stimulation of a drug. Here's some examples: smoking, eating, drinking, drugs, or activities such as gambling and sex, to provide relief from life's normal strains and stresses. Now, the addict is now suffering from a new source of stress: the biological urges caused by the absence of the stimulant feeding the addiction. Once trapped in their addiction, the addict finds it nearly impossible to break out and escape, due mainly to the pain of withdrawal, preferring the status quo and familiarity of their addiction to the anguish of withdrawal. Now, part of the process of overcoming an addiction is to confront the rationalizations, which I often call lies, people invent to justify their continued support of their addiction. Knowing they can't escape their addiction physically, they accept their fate and soothe their fragile self-concept and self-esteem with rationalizations, and we're going to discuss five of them in just a minute. To break free of an addiction, these rationalizations must be confronted and exposed so the addict is forced to make a rational choice: either continue slavery to their addiction or confront the monster and accept the pain of withdrawal to get clean. Now, insight and understanding of the truth behind the lies is a crucial first step to overcoming an addiction. To recover, the addict has to want to escape the tyranny of his addiction if he wants to become clean. Presented in the table on the chart you're looking at are the 5 most frequent irrational rationalizations given by an addict for his continued pursuit of his addiction. Next to each rationalization is a logical challenge to it. So the first step towards overcoming an addiction is for the addict to give up his rationalizations for continuing the toxic behavior that is causing both short and long-term consequences to his life. So let's turn to these rationalizations. The number one reason people are unable to escape their addiction is they can't handle the withdrawal symptoms. Now, the challenge is that this is basically an exaggeration. It basically underestimates the power of the human spirit to do the impossible. It can be done. Number 2, I enjoy my habit too much to give it up. This is basically ignoring the downside of chemical emotional dependency and the urges that are causing new stresses and collateral damage. You have your habit because you're stuck with it. Number 3, I just wouldn't feel right if I gave up my pleasures. However, let's face it, if you replace the addiction with some healthy habits and behaviors, well, you'll feel like yourself again, only yourself without an addiction. Number 4, I'm not addicted, I just enjoy a harmless pleasure. Oh boy, this is full-blown denial of the dependency on a harmful substance with harmful consequences, and of continuing the addiction-producing behaviors that has real consequences in both short and in long term on yourself and others. And lastly, number 5, my addiction relaxes me and makes me happier. Well, this basically ignores the fact that the addiction is causing these urges and a stress to indulge in your addiction in the first place. So the addiction is a cause of your stress and tension. So naturally, it's going to relax you if you engage in your addiction. So this ignores the downside harm of urges that cause stresses. This is new stresses, and forgetting the other positive habits that could make you just as happy without the harmful consequences. Also, it tends to focus on the short term without consideration of the long-term impacts. Now, my main message, despite all these rationalizations, remember, if there is a will, there is a way. So you have to get motivated to want to become free of your addiction. So now that you're aware of the illogic of your rationalizations, you're ready to confront the dominant reason most addicts choose to stay addicted. The number one reason why addicts can't escape their addiction is that the fear they can't handle the pain and suffering and discomfort of the withdrawal process. And if they try and fail, it would severely impact their already weakened self-concept and self-esteem. This fear of pain and failure is overblown, and there's much that can be done to minimize the discomfort of withdrawal. Now, the topic of the next presentation, titled Overcoming Addiction, Why You Are Addicted, discusses why the withdrawal process intimidates people. And subsequent presentations will focus on strategies that will help you survive the withdrawal process required to end your addiction. And then something to look forward to, emergence to a new person where you begin to thrive. Well, that's all for now. Remember to stay positive. You'll be happier, healthier, after you get rid of your addiction and live longer.